Welcome back, everyone. We are live, the Prospero.ai stock market live streams. What a day in the stock market. We have major moves happening all over the place because of the way the presidential election went down last night. Donald Trump is the next president, the 47th president of the United States. One of the concerns going into the election was that it was going to be so close that it would take days or even weeks to get a resolution. But I think the market's happy that either way it went, it was over in about 12 hours or so. And we have so many updates to make across the board because of what happened yesterday. We're going to talk the Trump trade, what it means for Tesla, which we covered how important the election was going to be for that stock. Major move happening in it today. And George said last week, Tesla's future of the Mag 7, it could either be the worst or the best, depending how the election went. So looks like a win for Tesla, Elon Musk. So we'll cover that stock. Then, as Trump likes to say, drill, baby, drill. We're going to cover the oil sector and energy stocks. We saw solar energy companies like Enphase, Sunrun, First Solar dropping hard today. And we've seen the oil companies, Oxy, Chevron, and so many more, kind of struggling this year. So how are those going to shake out after the election? Are oil companies looking more interesting? Occidental Petroleum is one that Warren Buffett has been buying hand over fist, even as he's been selling in other areas of the market and building his cash position. So we'll highlight those. And then Bitcoin and crypto looks like a dawn of a new era with Trump being elected. Earlier this year, over the summer, he was at a rally in Tennessee, I believe, and announced that he will put Bitcoin on the USA's balance sheet if elected. So we could see the US government start buying Bitcoin daily. So does that change the perspective of Bitcoin? And is it a complete narrative shifter going forward? We see all the stocks related to Bitcoin going higher today: Coinbase, Robinhood, all the Bitcoin miners, Bitcoin itself. So we'll cover the crypto sector. And then we have the USA and China relations. So how is that going to affect the big tech companies, the international companies that do a lot of business in China, like Nike, Starbucks, Apple, and then also for the Chinese companies that were struggling and then rallied hard just about a month or so ago, waiting on this Chinese stimulus package that is supposed to be announced later this week. Alibaba, JD.com, Baidu, Neo. How is this Donald Trump presidency going to affect all of the relationships between these companies and the USA and China? Then we have the banking sector absolutely ripping today. You have companies like Wells Fargo up 15%, which is a pretty shocking move for a big bank stock like that. Usually they trade with a very low volatility. And all of the big banks are going hard today. JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citi, Wells Fargo, all of them, any ones you could look at. So why is a Trump presidency so beneficial for those companies? Because they're moving well outside of their normal volatility ranges. As you can tell by the topics I've said so far, a lot of what we're going to talk about today is kind of updating the view on different sectors, different stocks, different companies, because all of the talk so far until we got this result was kind of theoretical, but now it's concrete. So we can really give a better view on a lot of different areas of the market. Then, as George has mentioned on the stream with his silent firing article that was picked up on some major news publications, it looks like he may have caused enough trouble that Andy Jassy actually had to respond to him. So pretty cool, because this backdoor layoff rumor that maybe George started, Andy Jassy actually had to respond to it. So I'll let him know that, and we'll see how he feels about that. He did deny the rumor, but it's pretty cool that it got to him. Hello, George. Welcome to the stream.
Today on the brightness, it's one of those where I can't see.
You're a little bright, not too bad. If it's an easy fix, go
Let
for
me
it.
see. Yeah, I'll see if this makes it better.
Okay, and I'll just keep going through. We have two more topics that I'll mention before we get into the bulk of things here. There's this term. Nope, it was better the other way.
Better the other way?
Sorry. Yeah. Um,
No problem.
there's an antitrust trade, as it's being called, where in the past year, a lot of companies that were going to go through mergers, some including CPRI stock, which is going to go with Tapestry, Spirit Airlines, Kroger's Albertsons, and then some other companies that have been facing DOJ pressure, Live Nation and Google. How are things going to shake out for them with a less regulation in the pipeline? Um, are they looking interesting here? And then last but not least, we have to cover the Fed meeting that is going to take place tomorrow, where it's widely expected that they are going to cut rates by 0.25%. But with the market and everything looking so bullish, how does the Fed's outlook turn after this meeting? It seems like it's too late to change for them right now, but are things going to switch up with the presidential election and the new outlook that the market is giving? Uh, so obviously across the board, we're seeing major rallies in the indexes today. The Russell is up over 5.5% on a single day. Pretty wild moves we're seeing in the market. Let's take a look at the QQQ net option sentiment as we get this thing started. I'm very curious to see if it's ripped higher. It is at 50, and the SPY is at 44. So we're seeing that gap that we've been covering close, only about 6 points apart now. So George, we've been covering how we expected volatility heading into the election season, and we've been saying that since, I don't know, July, August, somewhere in there. Now that we've finally got the election results, and we'll go through what the result means for a bunch of different sectors and stocks in the market, but specifically that volatility that you've been highlighting, has that ceiling been lifted, and are we off to the races now?
I think we're bullish now, right? QQQ, SPY net options that are both looking good, especially SPY. I just checked is at 46. It was, looking considerably worse this week. No reason not to be bullish. A little things like you could say, well, I would have crushed this election if I knew that Sunrun was a battery company. I'm mad at TradingView because when I looked at it yesterday, it said semiconductors. And I mean, perhaps that's accurate, but that's going to be the one blemish of otherwise playing this election perfectly. But I will say, still we were calling out Coin and Tesla going in as great risk reward plays. And like even our newsletter 2 weeks ago, I ran the numbers today, for people that I hope took our advice instead of DJT. Since we published that newsletter, DJT is actually down 12%, even in today's movement. That's a current number, right? And Tesla is up 6% and Coinbase is up 13%. So very proud of how we guided people towards playing the Trump win, because that was even just supposed to be saying like, hey, the downside on DJT is going to be bigger. Even the upside was lower in the victory than the positive good risk reward, things that we recommended in Coinbase and Tesla. But yeah, looking at a bull market now, Trump is going to do whatever he's a big scoreboard guy. He's going to do whatever it takes to he cares about the stock market. He cares about that scoreboard. He's going to do whatever it takes to make the stock market good. There's things like renewables that, aren't looking so hot. It doesn't mean everything's going to go up, but I do also think, and I was on a live stream earlier today where I was talking about this, I do also think that tech AI is going to do better with Trump, just because I think you heard more rhetoric from the Democrats about regulations around AI. I expect there to be regulations. Now, there's other dangers on the other side of that, obviously. And as it relates specifically to chip stocks and what might happen with tariffs in China, I'm concerned about chips, especially Nvidia. I might prefer Broadcom, but I think it's a great day for AI. It's a great day for tech. It's a great day for cryptocurrency. My view on cryptocurrency has changed in that, like, I've basically said that in terms of the options markets in crypto being non-transparent is a big issue for me, because you never know when it's going to go. You never know when it's going to have that big hit, right? You never know, because there could be people that are loading up on levered bets against. But I just think it's such a bullish outlook where the US government, there's promises they're going to buy crypto. I think, the president and his family have exposure to cryptocurrency. And I believe that they will want those businesses to do very well. There's certain things that it's hard just not to be bullish on, and the market's reflecting that.
Yeah, and we've talked about a lot of the things we're going to talk about today, but up until the election result, they were kind of in theory, and it was this way or that way because you could never be certain. And now that we have a certain concrete result, I kind of want to go through all these things and update our positions and our views and our outlooks, and whether these moves, because we're seeing some crazy moves take place in the market today, whether they're a short term reaction that is going to get kind of faded, or if they're sustainable moves. So you mentioned Tesla; it's up over 15%, I believe. When we were talking about it in the past couple of weeks, I was asking you if it can make a new all-time high in the next 4 years. I think now that is becoming, can it make a new all-time high next year? The way it's bullishly moved today, it seems like, and you talked about in our Mag 7 power rankings earlier that Tesla was either first or last. So has it jumped to the first position amongst those companies?
Well, I think I said Apple was going to be below it regardless. But yeah, I think number one position. I think it's only a matter of time until we get some big full self-driving announcement from, I think, probably at the federal level. Which, I'm a big proponent that it's going to be progress. I mean, especially for things like traffic. I think I do have some concerns with, as I said, with people playing it a little too fast and loose. But I do think it's going to be good to have full self-driving available and great for Tesla. I have it in my trading and investing portfolio. I don't see myself letting go of it anytime soon.
Yes, it is a big win for Elon Musk today, and it was a big, bold bet by him. And you mentioned some of the renewable energy concerns that we saw taking place in stocks like Sunrun, Enphase, First Solar. So the landscape of the energy sector, with the oil companies having kind of been stuck in the mud this year, I think one I want to highlight is Occidental Petroleum, since Warren Buffett is buying it hand over fist while he's selling other areas of the market at the same ferocity. So, how does Oxy look? It's down 14% year to date. How do the big oil companies look? And that bifurcation of renewable versus oil, is that going to keep going in the directions they've gone today over the next couple of years?
I think it's really hard to tell. It's. Do I need to adjust more? I can't see the screen at all. It's so bright, but you can tell me.
It's fine. We're good.
Okay. Um, it's gonna be very hard to tell. Like, obviously, sometimes when you're looking at this stuff and we talk about tech stocks and how much of the growth is built into the price, is what we always say, right? So I don't think this is a question of like renewables necessarily being hurt. I just think they were going to get more support and nurturing from a Harris presidency. Um, I think the rest of it we really, really have to see, right? Because as I was talking about this morning and thinking about like nuclear, right? I could see nuclear being a big winner. Nuclear, quantum computing. I do actually think that, one of, obviously there's a lot of positives and negatives everyone feels about this. Like I would say one of the positives that I see in the Trump regime is I do think China we have to view as someone that is, much more competitor than friendly. And I think the Democrats tend to be more friendly. And I do think we have to start looking at some of the technologies that we need to fund, like quantum computing, like nuclear energy to support it. So that's the big one I want to see, right? Like, I'm not sure if renewables, I think specifically renewables are kind of like solar and wind, or that's kind of like a democratic thing. So I think he'll avoid that for his base. But put simply, we're going to need a lot more energy than like coal is going to provide us. So we're going to need to look outside, and that might end up benefiting nuclear a lot. And we see it line up in that way. And there's a lot of alignment with like JD Vance, Peter Thiel, that kind of circle in that VC arm. And they really are starting to get into the nuclear stuff. So I think what we could see, if you're looking for a potential, winner and loser, solar, wind are looking like losers, but they might become value buys. They might get hit a little too hard here, and they're still businesses. They're still around, right? I don't think, Trump is going to eliminate renewable energy. It's just not going to help it grow as much as you might have thought. But I do think that nuclear could be an interesting thing in the energy sector. And I say all that to say, like, I do think we have to see how all this is going to shake out a little bit. I do think Trump is, very pro, oil, natural gas. We've done very well with that in terms of expanding our own production instead of importing. And that'll continue. But my second point is that even with that, we are going to start just consuming a lot more energy with all of this compute coming through the pipeline. And if it isn't going to be solar and wind, like nuclear is the only thing I can see that could get us the kind of power that we need. We can't drill for enough oil to actually like power all this shit that's coming through the pipe, all the AI systems, all the computing resources. So that's kind of, I mean, it wasn't one of those things that until like the election actually happened and I thought about it, but like as I break it down, that's where I'm at. So I'm not sure oil is a buy because I'm not sure where the right value is. But it's definitely not something you want to short anymore because it has been hit really hard.
And that's a very interesting point on nuclear. So we'll be watching out for some of those companies as the weeks and months pass on. And you also mentioned your change of opinion on Bitcoin and crypto. So we have a Bitcoin president in the White House for the first time ever. Like you said, Trump and his family own Bitcoin crypto. And earlier this year in Tennessee, he said he would support the USA buying it daily and putting it on their balance sheet. Bitcoin has reacted very positively. All of the stocks around it, like Coinbase, Square, all of the miners, all of them are up today. So if you're going to play this sector going forward, it seems like you like playing the stocks related to Bitcoin better. Maybe that's because you have the options data that you like. Is that still how you go about it?
Well, I have the options data that I like. There's a lot of single currency risk in Bitcoin. Like a lot of the skilled engineers that I know are not sure that in that space are not sure that Bitcoin is going to be the ultimate winner, that it's around, but how much growth it has from from here versus maybe some other ones. Same thing for like Ethereum, like how it's going to shake out. You don't know. We're still relatively early in the cryptocurrency cycle. That's why I like something like Coinbase, right? Whatever cryptocurrencies are going to be purchased, Coinbase is in a great position to do that. It's risk adjusted. BLOK, Block, the ETF is also a good way to spread out the risk. That's like a broad blockchain and cryptocurrency exposure. You got miners, you got investors, you got things like PayPal and Square. I still don't think concentration risk is where you want to be as it relates to single cryptocurrencies. I still think because there's non-transparent option markets, you might not necessarily know, like, when I'm buying these blue chip mega cap stocks, right? I'm looking at an option sentiment and I'm kind of saying like, okay, I like it. Maybe it's losing momentum and it gets to a certain point. And it's not necessarily the price. If you sell something when the price starts going down, you'll be selling it a lot. Like a lot of the times, even as the price is going down, I'm looking for net option sentiment to help me out. And there's not only is there no equivalent to net option sentiment in cryptocurrencies, there's no equivalent to the transparency. You don't know where the levered bets are being made. So that's why it really behooves you. You'll still get a lot of upside to do something like Coin, to do something like Block, to get exposure without the diversification risk. And I mean, hey, right? Coinbase is up 30% today, and I think Bitcoin is only up 11%, right? So there you go. You might not even be losing out on the return there.
And another area of the market that I am just shocked to see the level of volatility to the upside today is the big banks and how they're moving. So to go through some of the moves, Wells Fargo's up 12%, JP Morgan's up 11%, Bank of America is up 8%. I mean, seeing that level of volatility in these stocks that are kind of like legacy stocks and very low volatility normally, it's kind of crazy. So what difference and like what pricing difference are these stocks seeing now with the Trump presidency? Why is it so bullish for them? Like I could understand if they were up 2, 3, 4%, but why are they up, double, triple that?
Ultimately, I think what we're dealing with here, Kamala Harris had basically a plan to fund, to raise taxes for the wealthiest Americans, right? That was her core plan. And Trump, his tax cuts, his corporate tax cuts, very friendly to the wealthy, to landowners, to corporations. So I think that's what we're seeing. You had one candidate running, and for people that are skeptical of the Democrats, I'm skeptical of both parties. It's fair to say, like, whatever they were saying, they weren't gonna tax the 1%. That's a fair comment. However, they were saying that part of their platform was basically going to be to extract money from the wealthiest Americans. And the Trump campaign wasn't really saying that. And who do banks make the most money from? The wealthiest Americans. I think banks are expecting, I think people are expecting friendly corporate tax environments again, which is friendly towards banks. I think you're just expecting in the Trump presidency, very favorable conditions for the wealthy. And while traditionally I can acknowledge there are favorable conditions for the wealthy with the Democrats and the Republicans, the platform that the Democrats ran on and models have to risk adjust for was not as friendly as they typically were. So I think that's what we're seeing. Those models just now being able to remove those assumptions and becoming more bullish for banks as a result.
Yeah, so just one of the very wild moves that we're seeing today. And so we have the Chinese government scheduled to meet later this week, I believe November 8th, to unveil their stimulus package that sent a lot of those stocks rallying about a month ago. And they're actually waiting for the election results, people are saying, to give their final package, because if Trump was elected, they were theorizing that they're going to give a bigger package now. So after those stocks have given back, like Alibaba, JD.com, Baidu, and a lot of the other Chinese stocks, are they interesting? Would you play this meeting that's occurring later this week? I've seen BABA pop up on the short-term bull list here and there. So, how are you feeling about that?
I mean, I would consider China stocks radioactive until further notice. Like, I don't know how much of this tariff thing is bluster. Um, who knows? But and I don't know how much of it is bluster. I don't really even know how much is going to go in, how much is actually going to hurt the Chinese economy, if the Chinese economy has been planning for this and has a way to say stimulate. But for now, just too risky. I think if the election went the other way, there could have been some good value picks in China. Alibaba would have been one of them. But as of now, radioactive, not going anywhere near it.
Does that work in the reverse way for companies that have a large business in China, like Nike, Starbucks, maybe Apple to a lesser degree, Tesla? I mean, so like any company that has a large China exposure, is that a concern for you?
Um, maybe, but not yet. Like it really depends. So like I could tackle it one at a time. Apple depends on Foxconn to manufacture things, right? I don't think that's going to change, right? I'm worried about chips, right? Because China buys so many NVIDIA chips. And I'm worried that there might be tariffs on those, right? And it might affect the sales, or it might escalate more, right? I think if you're looking at potential US imports into China, which there's not that many, there's concerns, but only at a certain level. Do I think China is going to say no more McDonald's? No. Like, I don't really like they might put tariffs on that, but I'm not even sure they put tariffs on McDonald's burgers and that changes the demand for it very much. I'm most concerned about anything involving, like, potentially Taiwan, potentially importing those chips. I think what China might say to themselves if we like escalate this like Cold War tariff, whatever Cold War with Trump, I think they might say we just need to start building our own chips and not buying from NVIDIA, which in the short term is a concern for NVIDIA. I don't think they're going to not buy for them at all, but I do think they might start planning for that, which could start affecting NVIDIA's stock in the short term.
So the next topic is a follow-up on an article that you had written about the silent firing that you were expecting to take place amongst tech companies. I saw this rebuttal, and I don't know if it's directly at you, George, if you were the one who spurred this response from the Amazon CEO, Andy Jassy, but I mean, there's no way to disprove it. So he came out and he said the backdoor layoff that he's been seeing people theorize about is not true. So he's refuting your claim. I wonder what you make of that, and also, it's pretty cool if he's responding directly to something that you were kind of the thought leader behind.
We made it. You heard it here first on this stream. I think this is when we first started talking about, like, I think it was a topic that you pitched me that actually gave me this idea for silent firing. So, cosign for those that don't know, like, I wrote an article in Fast Company about what I called silent firing, which was basically saying that Amazon was pushing this 5-day work week, even though 73% of their employees said they'd consider quitting from it. And all of this evidence says remote work makes people more productive. So why, for such a data-driven company, would you do that? The conclusion I drew was that they were trying to force people to fire. I definitely, no one was talking about it before this. I wrote about it. That article got picked up in the Post. It got picked up in a number of places. So Andy Jassy is responding to me, and like, yeah, I mean, what can I say? I think we're on the way up, Stephen. When we
He's
when we
ref-
have a mega cap CEO responding to ideas we put out into the world, uh, I think we've made it.
he is refuting it though, so I don't know if he's, you know, what the fact that he would respond, does that tell you that there's a hint of truth there, or why do you think he'd even answer a rumor like this?
It's true. He's gotta try to like quell it. It's a bad look for him, but he didn't respond to the fact, like, one of the things I put in my article was that, like, people are 95%, like 95% of businesses say people are more productive with remote work. So what's the like is production not what you're looking for, Andy? Like, he didn't give any really good reason. He gave some like vague rejections of it. Um, so yeah, I might try to follow up. I might try to fire back.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to find this article while we're on stream, and maybe I'll put it in the
No,
chat.
it's
I'll send it
all
to you
over.
too.
Like he this got picked up in a bunch of places.
Oh, it did. Okay. So yeah, yeah. So we need a rebuttal to the rebuttal from you on this topic. Um, yeah, but that was pretty cool when I saw that. Okay. Next, I was reading about this antitrust trade. So over the past, well, I guess this whole past administration, but when companies were trying to merge, there was a lot of antitrust disputes, and several have been not been able to go through. So we have some that I saw mentioned were a CPRI and Tapestry deal. CPRI is like a luxury fashion brand. They own Versace and some other things. Another one was Spirit Airlines, JetBlue, Kroger's, and Albertsons. All deals that have not gone through, but people think there could be a second round of those, and maybe they'll look to do them again now that maybe regulations will be lessened in this next administration. And then also two monopolies, you could say, Live Nation and Google, have been facing pressure from the DOJ. Maybe that pressure will be lessened also. So, what do you make of this less regulation environment? Do you think it's going to come true? And a lot of these companies that have been affected, and if it dragged on their stock, could see benefits from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Trump administration is definitely. I think there's going to be less regulation, less desire to regulate, just like overall, right? I mean, there's rumors that we're going to have whole branches of the government eliminated. Uh, so yeah, to say the least, I'd expect less regulation. But a lot of these things, like something you name, like, I'm not sure if Google going down was more about OpenAI or was more about the like. I'm not sure any stock was really hit that hard with any antitrust um problems. I think it's just like one of those headlines, maybe 10-15% at most. Um but I don't think it's moving the needle that much. I mean, if you really think about it, like, was it what it might have been the Baby Bells in the 90s was the last like major like antitrust breakup. I might be missing something, but I think that's it. So like I think as a stock market investor, you really have to be like, okay, like, it might hit the stock a little here and there, these headlines, but like, I don't think a country that hasn't really enforced these pretty clear violations of the laws in decades uh is something that you really need to account for in the stock price.
Mm-hmm. And we have a question in our chat from Jonathan. Do you think Trump winning will have a negative impact on Meta or no impact? And it is interesting to note that Meta is one of the only stocks that is not green today. So maybe the market's thinking about that as we speak. But how do you feel about that question?
I mean, Trump has said he doesn't like Meta. like a few times. So that's one of the reasons that I dropped it. I'm gonna be pretty cautious from it. I'm gonna see especially like sometimes the long term metrics take a little while to play out. I'd be interested to see what's going on with Meta and net option sentiment today. Yeah, it's down. It's going down. It recovered a little bit, but yeah, it opened at 84 today, which is very low for it. So we'll keep our eye on it. I mean, the tough thing is it still is a very good company, right? And even if Trump is mad at Meta, I'm not really sure like how much he can or will do to hurt the business. And I mean, I'm sure he could do some things. I'm not sure he will. Just because he's got other fish to fry. He's got a lot of other like big things on his ticket that he ran on. But I'm more cautious on Meta. I'm gonna be slower to add it than I would be otherwise. And that's just a relative value thing. Really, what that comes down to is there's a lot of stocks to be bullish on right now that don't have those risks.
And we've had Zuck 1.0, 2.0, so maybe we need a 3.0 to handle this Trump administration to bring Metastack and keep going higher. But it's also rallied so much. I feel like the narrative for Meta is so different than it was like a year or two ago. Like the easy gains have kind of been had almost. Would you say so?
I do think, like, what's Meta's forward PE right now? Let's take a look. I mean, it's been pretty, it has continued to look like a good value. 22.5. Yeah, see, it's still a good forward PE. Like it's it's its earnings growth has continued to outpace the price. And that's one of the reasons why I think it keeps looking good in Prospero signals. But we'll have to see. Like, I imagine, like, part of what needs to get figured out is who's in Trump's cabinet, right? Because, like I said, I'm not sure he himself is going to do anything. He's got a lot of things to worry about. So, like, but there's certain people in his cabinet that I could certainly see be very concerning for Meta. So we'll play it cautiously.
It seems like in the stock market, there's always one thing that is like the major concern of the market. For it was inflation for so long, then it was this election for so long. It seems like we're kind of void of anything really sticking out, being that really big thing that the market is worried about. Does anything come to your mind, or are we kind of in a Goldilocks period where I don't know until something comes our way? It seems to be like it's just going to melt up.
I mean, the market overall, I think we expect a melt up, but there's obviously things to play. There's obviously opportunities. I'm going to be interested to see momentum score. I haven't checked it today, what those opportunities look like.
Yeah, and we will be getting to that in just a few moments. I have one more topic, and I see we've had so many people onto the stream today. So thank you all for tuning in and your question, Jonathan. The last thing I wanted to cover on the stream today was the FOMC meeting tomorrow and Jerome Powell's decision. So it seems like the Fed is locked into cutting rates by a quarter of a point tomorrow. It would really shock the markets, I believe, if they didn't do that. I'm wondering about going forward now beyond this. The market had been anticipating ongoing rate cuts, but with the economy holding up so well and the market going, such in a bullish direction, how can that path stay the same? And what would happen to the market if Jerome Powell tomorrow says, this might be the last rate cut for a while or something to that effect?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'd say that. I think we're, basically if we're getting a 99 over 99% chance of a rate cut, like the Fed, just for stability, like, just for stability's sake, doesn't tend to go in. I mean, I'd be surprised if that's ever happened. Someone in the audience might be able to tell me. Not to my recollection has such a big surprise ever happened. There have been some surprises, but not to that extent. But to your point, I do think with the market going the way that it has, I do think there could be some talk of maybe like some firm talk of not cutting in the next meeting or needing to see more data before they cut in the next meeting. I think that's what we're going to expect. I don't expect them to talk about meetings after that. We might. I mean, like if there wasn't an election change, this might be the time of year where Powell might say, "Hey, we're looking to get to this base rate by next year." But with the administration change, I doubt he's going to touch that. My guess is, if anything, he just says, "We're not sure if we're going to cut again in the next meeting." I really just think there's going to be variance on how firm he is on that versus he could say anywhere from like, it's looking like we want to be cautious. We are going to have to see data. We're willing to pause. I think that's probably the bear case of what he says. I think the bull case is probably him saying, we'd have to see data that would convince us. We'd have to see data that would convince us to pause versus keep cutting. I think that's the range of outcomes you're seeing.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that lays it out good, and we'll watch him tomorrow. I think he usually speaks at 2:30, so we'll see how the market reacts to that. But it is that time of the stream. I'm excited to see what moves we make today, but we'll do the switch over and see you in the Prospero.ai lab. Big model portfolio update today with all the changes we have seen in the market. I'm sure we will skew a bit more bullishly after today's updates in our stock positions. So right now, the QQQ is up 2.7%, SPY is up 2.5%, Dow up 3.5%, and IWM up 5.77%. Can we get to 6% on the IWM in a day, which is a small cap stocks for those of you who don't follow too closely for that, which has been lagging behind most of the other indexes for a while now. But we're seeing a rip today. And let's give a live update on the QQQ and SPY net options sentiment, which we mentioned at the beginning of the stream. We're looking more bullish. Hopefully you guys are having a great day in your portfolios with the way the market is going. So we're seeing the QQQ at 52 in net options sentiment, which is back to levels we saw just about a week ago now, around Halloween and all before that in the end of October. We saw a dip going into the election, probably just election fears and people hedging. We are back right to those bullish levels we were seeing prior to the last couple of days. And the SPY is where we really saw people maybe hedging their bullish positions. We saw SPY hit 0 in net option sentiment, which was, looking back at it now, it's probably just people hedging. But let's see where it is. It is at 44, which is actually a new high of the recent trend. So looking much better in the SPY.
A real reversal.
Yeah, big time reversal.
All right. Well, it looked like, especially in the trading portfolio, other than a similar snafu with Run, we had a good day today, even pretty net long short in the market, because I think we picked the right things to do. All right, QQQ SPY you said was 44.
SPY 44, QQQ 52.
All right.
Question from Ted. Thoughts on healthcare? Talks of RFK going after corruption in pharma, LLY, PFE down big today. Pepsi and Coke down. Maybe Americans getting healthier. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. It's kind of it's a weird thing with healthcare, right? Because what what really needs to happen is single payer health, right? There's really only so much that you can do in this structure. Like, you always hear they're gonna cheapen drug prices or like whatever, but you never really see it happen. You always see these drug companies become more and more profitable. I'll believe it when I see it. That to me seems like a social sentiment story, more than something that like I have any tangible belief will happen, you know, on the bottom line. But we'll see. I mean, RFK does have some pretty grand ideas about changing the healthcare system. That if he's actually allowed to do them, would definitely extract money from it. But my number one rule following the stock market in America is always, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe they cut the profits of these healthcare companies when I see it.
It's going to be a true battle, it sounds like.
I did not start sharing my screen.
I was just about to ask that.
One of the things I wanted to do was God, it always lies to me about this. It says my tunnel's open and then it's not open. Okay. This. Give me my move score report. Okay, let's see. Oh, yeah, look at that. Financials, industrials, consumer discretionary. Oh, that's an interesting one. Real estate not doing well. I wonder.
I think like the 10-year yield shot up or something, which was people were questioning. I think that usually doesn't happen when stocks rally, but it was happening today, which was strange. We are pretty bullish overall, but we will look to see if there are any small cap opportunities to single out on the long side.
I've been so busy today. I'm very interested to see what move score is looking like.
Should probably be a lot of fresh faces, right? Some new names in there.
We'll see.
Both ways. Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily. But yeah. Wow, Apollo was just a good. I mean, I saw Apollo was up this morning. I mean, just a good guess, I guess. Whatever. I'm gonna be lazy. All right. Industrials have been doing very well. All right, definitely this. This. Energy. Sure. As well as one more industrials. And then we're going to need. What is GSAT? I don't know why it's not doing this, but. Closed. Don't know why you're doing this. What is it? 3-7. But you're in. Welcome. And then yeah, a lot of real estate. I don't know what's going on. I mean, we might grab one of these, but we don't want to. We don't want to overserve on the bear side because we are trying to flip more bullish. So we might just grab one or two that are looking good. Wendy. And then maybe and we'll take one real estate, whatever looks the worst. We'll just do NNN, and then I think we're done. What's A10? Are you doing badly today? No, you are not. I think we'll probably be good on that. We definitely want to flip bullish. All right. What are we getting rid of? Interesting. Okay. That's not what I expected. Oh, I remember what we were going to do. That is a lot more than I might have expected. So I might want to grab. What is TDC? Just balance that out a little bit. What else did I say? Okay. Did we get into Geo? I think we're just going to. Whoa. What happened today? I think that's too much. We'll do that. We're just going to grab these. All right. I think that's it. All right. That is everything.
Well, it seems we are more bullish going forward. So thank you everybody for joining. Hopefully you had a good day in the stock market, and the world goes on and the election is behind us. So thank you, George. We'll see everybody back here Monday, 11 a.m. Have a good day.